Hello and welcome to this exploring session, the last session on Magnificence by John Skelton. It is, for an interlude, it's quite a lengthy one. The fact that we're doing this in 3 sessions and still feel that there's a lot more to be done to really dig into this text. This is, as ever, for an exploring session, our very surface look at it, and hopefully by the end of the session I'll be feeding in some more data about the play and some of its background, and we'll be able to add that into our thoughts about what to do with this play. It is a tricky one for a modern audience and for modern performance and depiction, and so that is still very much at the uppermost of my mind as to what one does with this play. We are returning with a very similar group of people from the last couple of days. This is the lineup we had pretty much on Wednesday when we first started. So just to briefly reintroduce everyone, reading today Fancy and Redress is...
Good evening, I'm Rob Myson and I live near Ely in Cambridgeshire.
And reading the majority of these parts, Measure, Crafty, Conveyance, Poverty, Good Hope and Perseverance is...
I'm Greg and I'm definitely looking for the story here.
Reading a selection of Felicity, Cloaked, Colusion, Adversity, Mischief and Sad Circumspection is...
I'm Steve Longstaffe, scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
And once again, returning to the cudgels of Liberty, Counterfeit, Countenance, Courtly Abusion, Folly and Despair is...
Hello, my name is Sascha Cooper and I'm a professional performer based in Brighton in the UK.
And returning as the personification of Magnificence himself is...
Hi, my name's Heydn McCabe. I live in Suffolk in the UK.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton, and I'll be generally attempting to keep order in this room of reprobates. And you don't know how this session started, trust me, ladies and gentlemen. Keeping order here may be uphill. So we are about over 2/3 of the way through the play, and Magnificence has been influenced now by the forces of disorder, shall we say. Liberty, who was once kept in check by Measure, has been given his liberty, as well, and there are various other figures stalking about Cloaked, Colusion, for one, and Folly and Fancy and various other peoples as well, though we're going to be introduced to some new characters anon. We're rejoining the play where Magnificence has been left alone and Folly comes in to join him. And just to give us a little bit of the run-up, Magnificence, if we could actually go from your little speech, thus I say, to run into the entrance of Folly, if that is reasonable to everyone.
Yep.
Okay, so Magnificence has been left alone, Cloaked Colusion has left.
Thus, I say, I am environed with solace. I dread no dints of fatal destiny. Well were that lady might stand in my grace, me to embrace and love most specially. Ah, Lord, so I would halse her heartily, so I would clip her, so I would kiss her sweet.
And here cometh in Folly.
Mary Christ, ye catch no coat on your feet.
And who is this?
Good seat, sir, your own man.
Ah, what tidings with you, sir? I befool thy brain pan.
By our lacking, sir, I have been a hawking for the wild swan. My hawk is ramaged, and it happed that she ran. Flew, I should say, into an old barn to reach at a rat I could not her warn. She pinched her pinion, by God, and catched harm. It was a runner, nay, fool, I warrant her blood warm.
Ah, sir, thy dear falcon and thou be hanged together.
And, sir, as I was coming to you hither, I saw a fox suck on a cow's udder, and with a lime rod I took them both together. I trow it to be a frost, for the way is slidder. See, for God avow, for cold as I chitter.
Thy words hang together as feathers in the wind.
Ah, sir, told I not you how I did find a knave and a churl, and all of one kind? I saw a weathercock wag with the wind. Great marvel I had, and mused in my mind. The hounds ran before, and the hare behind. I saw a lossel lead a lurden, and they were both blind. I saw a souter goes to supper ere ever he had dined.
By cock's heart, thou art a fine merry knave.
I may God avow ye we none other men have.
What sayest thou?
Mary, I pray God your mastership to save. I shall give you a gourd of a gosling that I gave. The gander and the goose both grazing on one grave. Then Roland the reeve ran, and I began to rave, and with the bristle of a boar his beard did I shave.
If ever I heard such another, God give me shame.
Sim Saddle Goose was my sire, and Dorcock my dam. I could, and I list, gar you laugh at again, how a woodcock wrestled with a lark that was lame. The bittern said boldly that they were to blame. The fieldfare would have fiddled, and it would not frame. The crane and the curlew thereat gain to grame. The snipe snivelled in the snout, and smiled at the game.
Cock's bones, heard you ever such another?
See, sir, I beseech you, largesse my brother.
And here Fancy cometh in.
What tidings with you, sir, that you look so sad?
When ye know what I know, ye will not be glad.
What, brother Brainsig, how farest thou?
Yea, let be thy japes, and tell me how the case requireth.
Alas, alas, and heavy meeting. I would tell you, and if I might, for weeping.
What, is all your mirth now turned to sorrow? Farewell too soon, adieu till tomorrow.
And here Folly goeth away.
I pray thee, largesse, let be thy sobbing.
Alas, sir, we are undone with stealing and robbing. You sent us a supervisor for to take heed of yourself, for now ye have need.
What, hath sadness beguiled me so?
Nay, madness hath beguiled you and many mo, for liberty is gone, and also Felicity.
Gone? Alas, ye have me undone.
Nay, he that sent us cloaked Colusion, and your painted pleasure courtly Abusion, and your demeanour with counterfeit countenance, and your surveyor crafty Conveyance, ere ever we were aware, brought us in adversity, and hath robbed you quite from all felicity.
Why, is this the largesse that I have used?
Nay, it was your fondness that ye have used.
And is this the credence that I gave to the letter?
Why, could not your wit serve you no better?
Why, who would have thought in you such guile?
What? Yes, by the rood, sir, if it was I all this while that you trusted, and Fancy is my name, and Folly my brother, that made you much game.
And here cometh in Adversity.
Alas, who is yonder that grimly looks?
Adieu, for I will not come in his cloaks.
And here Fancy goes out.
Lord, so my flesh trembleth now of dread.
And here Magnificence is beaten down and spoiled from all his goods and raiment.
I am Adversity, that for thy misdeed from God am sent to quite thee thy meed. Vile Velyard, thou must now my dint withstand, thou must abide the dint of my hand. Lie there, Lozel, for all thy pomp and pride. Thy pleasure now with pain and trouble shall be tried. The stroke of God, Adversity I hight. I pluck down king, prince, lord, and knight. I rush at them roughly and make them lie full low, and in their most trust I make them overthrow. This Lozel was a lord, and lived at his lust, and now like a lurden he lieth in the dust. He knew not himself, his heart was so high. Now is there no man that will set by him a fly? He was wont to boast, brag, and to brace. Now dare he not for shame look one in the face. For worldly wealth for him too little was. Now hath he right naught, naked as an ass. Sometime without measure he trusted in gold, and now without measure he shall have hunger and cold. Lo, sirs, thus I handle them all that follow their fancies in folly to fall. Man or woman, of what estate they be, I counsel them beware of adversity. Of sorrowful servants I have many scores. I visit them sometimes with blames and with sores, with botches and carbuncles in care I them knit. With the gout I make them to groan where they sit. Some I make lepers and lazzars full horse, and from that they love best, some I divorce. Some with the marmal to halt I them make, and some to cry out of the bone ache, and some I visit with burning of fire, of some I wring of the neck like a wire. Some I make in rope to totter and walter, and some for to hang themselves in a halter. Some I visit to battle, war and murder, and make each man to slay other, to drown or to slay themselves with a knife, and all is for their ungracious life. Yet sometimes I strike where there is none offence, because I would prove men of their patience. But nowadays to strike I have great cause. Liderans so little set by God's laws, fathers and mothers that be negligent and suffer their children to have their intent, to guide them virtuously that will not remember them or their children. Oft times I dismember their children because that they have no meekness. I visit their fathers and mothers with sickness, and if I see thereby they will not amend, then mischief suddenly I them send. For there is nothing that more displeaseth God than from their children to spare the rod of correction, but let them have their will. Some I make lame, some I do kill, and some I strike with a frenzy. Of some of their children I strike out the eye, and where the father by wisdom worshippeth one, I send oft times a fool to his son. Whereof of adversity, look ye, beware. When I cometh sorrow and care, for I strike lords of realms and lands that rule not by measure that they have in their hands, that sadly rule not their household men. I am God's prepositor, I print them with a pen, because of their negligence and their wanton vagues. I visit and strike them with many sore plagues. To take, sirs, example of that you tell, and beware of adversity by my counsel. Take heed of this caitiff that lieth here on ground. Behold how fortune of him hath frowned. Although we show you this in game and play, yet it proveth earnest ye may see every day. For now will I from this caitiff go, and take mischief and vengeance of other mo that hath deserved it as well as he. Ah, where art thou? Come hither, poverty. Take this caitiff to thy law.
And here cometh in poverty, and adversity goes out.
Oh, my bones ache, my limbs be sore. Alas, I have the sciatica full evil in my hip. Oh, alas, where is youth that was wonderful to skip? I am lousy and unliking and full of scurf. My colour is tawny coloured as turf. I am poverty, that all men doth hate. I am baited with dogs at every man's gate. I am ragged and rent, oh, as ye may see. Full few, but they have envy at me. Now must, this carcass I lift up. He dined with delight, with poverty he must sup. Rise up, sir, and welcome unto me.
Apologies there. Here, well, the stage direction I've got it here, he lifts up Magnificence, puts a coverlet over him. I'm not sure if that's quite the correct translation of the original stage direction, but we may come back to that later. Anyway, Magnificence starts to speak.
Alas, where is now my golden fee? Alas, I say, whereto am I brought? Alas, 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 I die for thought.
Sir, all this would have been thought on before. He wotteth not what wealth is, and that never was sore.
Fie, fie, that ever I should be brought in this snare. I weened once never to have known care.
Lo, such is this world. I find it writ in wealth to beware, and that is wit.
In wealth to beware, if I had had grace, never had I been brought in this case.
Now sith it will no other be, all that God sendeth take it in gree. For though you were sometime of noble estate, now you must learn to beg at every man's gate.
Alas, that ever I should be so shamed. Alas, that ever I Magnificence was named. Alas, that ever I was so hard-happed in misery and wretchedness thus to be lapped. Alas, that I could not myself no better guide. Alas, in my cradle, that I had not died.
Oh, yea, sir, yea, leave all this rage, and pray to God to your sorrows to assuage. It is folly to grudge against his visitation. With heart contrite make your supplication unto your Maker, that made both you and me, and when it pleaseth God, better may be.
Alas, I wot not what I should pray.
Remember you'd better, sir, beware what ye say, for dread ye displease the high deity, put your will in his will, for surely it is he that may restore you again to felicity and bring you again out of adversity. Therefore poverty look patiently ye take, and remember he suffered much more for your sake. Howbeit of all sin he was innocent, and ye have deserved this punishment.
Alas, with cold my limbs shall be marred.
Yea, sir, now must ye learn to lie hard, that was wont to lie on feather beds of down. Now must your feet lie higher than your crown. Where you were wont to have candles for your head, now must you munch mammocks and lumps of bread. And where you had changes of rich array, now lap you in a coverlet full fain that you may. And where that you were pomped with what you would, now must ye suffer both hunger and cold. With courtly silks you were wont to bedraw, now must ye learn to lie on the straw. Your skin that was wrapped in shirts of wren, now must ye be storm-beaten with showers and rains. Your heed that was wont to be happed most droopy and drowsy, now shall ye be scabard, scurvy, and lousy.
Fie on this world, full of treachery, that ever nobleness should lie thus wretchedly.
Sir, remember the turn of fortune's wheel, that wantonly can wink and winch with her heel. Now will she laugh, or with she will frown, suddenly set up and suddenly pluck down. She danceth variance with mutability, now in all wealth, forthwith in poverty. In her promise there is no sickness, all her delight is set in doubleness.
Alas, of fortune I may well complain.
Yea, sir, yesterday will not be called again, but yet now, now in this case, take it meekly and thank God of his grace. For now go, I will beg for you some meat. It is folly against God for to plead. I will walk now with my beggar's bags, and wrap you the whiles with this homely rags.
And going away, Poverty says these last words.
Oh, now how my limbs be lighter and lame. Better it is to beg than to be hanged with shame. Yet many had liefer hanged be than for to beg that their meat for charity. They think it is no shame to rob and steal, yet they were better to beg a great deal. For by robbing they run in manners to us quick, but begging is better medicine for the neck. Yea, marry, is it? Yea, so mote I go. Ah, Lord God, how the gout wringeth me by the toe.
And here Magnificence dolorously maketh his moan.
O feeble fortune, O doleful destiny, O hateful hap, O careful cruelty, O sighing sorrow, O thoughtful misery, O readless ruth, O painful poverty, O dolorous heart, O hard adversity, O odious distress, O deadly pain and woe, for well be shame, I wax both wan and blow. Where is now my wealth and of my noble estate? Where is now my treasure, my lands, and my rent? Where is now all my servants that I had here of late? Where is now my gold upon them that I spent? Where is now all my rich habiliment? Where is now my kin, my friends, and my noble blood? Where is now all my pleasure and my worldly good? Alas, my folly, alas, my wanton still. I may no more speak till I have wept my fill.
And we'll just pause there. It's a really, really powerful section, and really do feel like we're on much more solid ground with what's going. It's as we progressed in the latter half of last session and the beginning of this. It's again feeling those sort of very medieval elements there. Again, I think Rob and Ian will be feeling very familiar territory here with the sort of, I mean, adversity turning up very like death in that way, and just somewhere between death and Rod Serling, I think, and then baton passing to poverty, and poverty is such a wonderfully drawn character. I really like that, just constantly complaining. And just passing the baton of your magnificence ending up worse. And the stage direction, I said I wasn't sure about the translation. I did check, and so he lifts up magnificence, and I think it's more on a place where there might be some strewn rushes in a area that is much less high status. I think is what that stage direction actually was should read. So he's being placed somewhere different, being made more. He's had all his riches stripped off him. So yeah, there's some really interesting things. I really like the fact that Fancy comes on sobbing, just going, "Oh no, all the terrible things we've done have actually meant everything's gone wrong. It's like I didn't see that coming."
Yeah.
Who knew if I was I organised everyone to be really useless at running things that everything would fall apart.
It's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
Why?
Thoughts for let's start with adversity. How did you find adversity, Stephen?
Oh, it's great, really. Total baddie. A bit repetitive, maybe. So I don't know what that's about. Seeing as it's such, his speeches are so tight in some other areas, it does kind of labour the point a little bit, I suppose. And I couldn't quite work out what that was about. So if you come back to the idea of performance, I think, you'd get the idea with a shorter version of that.
I think this is a speech for which the blue pencil was invented. But that said, there is so much that's really, really, really good in it, really strong.
Well, there's sort of just sheer mind-numbing relish of the listing of it all. It's not just kind of like, oh well, I do this. I'm the CEO of Adversity, and these are my core areas. It's like I do this and I do this, and then he's kind of like going, takes pride in his work.
And yeah, it does remind me of the deaths and demons that we've had in other plays, where they really do relish and enjoy being quite terrifying. And because he's an idea, there's actually something slightly more terrifying about adversity than a demon turning up or something. Because it's a concept.
Yeah, it's just the way of everything, rather than sort of some kind of baddie who's out to get you.
Mm.
But I mean, again, this is the sort of thing people have been talking about, isn't it? The shift away from a sort of universe of personalised spirits who are, either on your side or not on your side, towards a sort of view of the world which kind of shifts it into slightly more secular territory.
Mm.
You could imagine some kind of ancient Roman talking about adversity.
And when poverty comes on and starts talking about Fortune's Wheel, we get a lot of Fortune's Wheel in these sessions. How's poverty for you?
I really liked him. It was the first character I'd actually felt I liked. Yes, I thought his, what was it? I just liked all his speeches actually. He's an interesting. He felt very human.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
he is himself suffering from poverty as well as being about sharing. It's like he gets all the bad things with it.
I loved that speech where it was, you were used to this, now it's this. I thought that was actually a really beautiful piece of writing.
Yeah. And again, if we think about the performance of it, of course, to some degree, both adversity and poverty are sort of inflicting this on Magnificence as well. And, that there might be, again, performance game that can be coming with this, energy vampire sucking the will out of poor Magnificence, the changing of clothing and think, what's Magnificence doing while adversity is making that speech? Is there some terrible price inflicted on him? So apart from general thumbs up with caveats, any additional thoughts before we move on?
I just like the fact.
I found that last.
Oh, right. Sascha first.
Sascha, you speak, darling.
Okay, well, I actually liked the fact that Folly is represented as the typical fool in this, but it's just that little bit at the end where as soon as Fancy comes on, oh woe is me, he just goes, oh well, if you're going to be like that, I'll get out of here then. It's like I'm not hanging around here to be dealing with this. Bye.
Yeah, you're such a downer.
It's so good.
Yeah. Mr. McCabe.
I was just going to say that last speech, I found him quite simpering and whimpering, losing his entitlements. A very, I didn't like it at all.
You didn't?
I didn't like the speech. No. Personal, that's all. Just
no, it's all right. No. It's the thing is, he's got to basically give up or be in the process of giving up hope.
I understand that. Yeah,
but it is very repetitious.
But coming from this sense of entitlement, he's buggered this all up himself, and now woe is me. Which is obviously the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen.
It seems to me things have got a bit more abstract. I mean, I've had quite a strong feeling in the earlier readings that this was quite closely tied into the way people thought courts operated. And it was, it's specifically Magnificence is a sort of earthly ruler. And it seems to have kind of retreated from that a little bit. And Magnificence is sort of positioned by the bit we've been reading today a bit more as an everyman figure. In the suffering, so I don't know if it's just me, but there seems to be a sort of switch of focus. Maybe it's just I'm too ready to find historical stuff in the plays, but and perhaps it's to do with empathy coming in at this point, suffering and empathy switching, in some sense, the level it's operating on.
I'm with you on that one, Stephen, actually, because, okay, jumping in after a day's break in between, I did wonder whether it was actually more a symbolic tale rather than just something physical, especially as a lot of it we can relate to the emotional mindset state of what we all go through at some point ourselves. So maybe that empathy is deliberately introduced here so that it is a switcheroo. So it's like a red herring in the beginning. So you set it up for the court stuff, as you've aptly said there, Stephen. But then the abstract comes in order to go, hang on a minute, guys, what if this happened? You know, and it's a way of going, let's have a look at it from all sides of the coin here. So could well be that.
It does feel very much like a game of two halves as well. Apart from some of the setup at the beginning, the first half was all the vice characters doing comedy business. And then when Magnificence re-enters, and the tone seems quite different and the tenor seems different. But that could be illusory, because it might just be because we've been breaking this up over sessions that just the tone of the day is imposing itself rather than things. But this half is feeling much more like a nod back to a medieval drama, whereas a lot of the business is nodding forward to some of the comic business you might get in other later plays. And I don't know if it's that aggressively. I mean, there's more business to come, so we'll see where that goes. Okay, I think we've got as far with that as we can. Let's move forward. So Magnificence is giving into wanhope by and large, and here cometh in our old friend Liberty.
With yea, merry sirs, thus should it be. I kissed her sweet, and she kissed me. I danced the darling on my knee. I guard her gasp, I guard her glee. With dance on the lay, the lay. I bust that baby with heart so free. She is the boot of all my bale. Ah, so that sire was far fet. To love that lovesome I will not let. My heart is wholly on her set. I plucked her by the patlet, at my device I with her met. My fancy fairly on her I set. So merrily singeth the nightingale. In lust and liking, my name is Liberty. I am desired with highest and lowest degree. I live as me list, I leap out at large. Of earthly thing I have no care nor charge. I am president of princes, I prick them with pride. What is he living that liberty would lack? £1,000 with liberty may hold no tack. At liberty a man may be bold for to break. Wealth without liberty goeth all to rack. But yet, sirs, hardly one thing learn of me. I warn you, beware of too much liberty. For totem in tutu is not worth an awe. Too hardy or too much, too free of the door. Too sober, too sad, too subtle, too wise. Too merry, too mad, too giggling, too nice. Too full of fancies, too lordly, too proud, too homely, too holy, too lewd, and too loud, too flattering, too smattering, too out of power, too cluttering, too chattering, too short, and too far, too jetting, too jagging, and too full of japes, too mocking, too mowing, too like a jack o' snapes. Thus totem in tutu groweth up, as ye may see, by means of madness and too much liberty. For I am a virtue, if I be well used, and I am a vice where I am abused.
Ah, woe worth thee, Liberty. Now thou sayest full true. that I use thee too much, sore may I rue.
What a very vengeance, I say! Who is that? What brothel, I say, is yonder bound in a mat?
I am Magnificence, that sometime thy master was.
What? Is the world thus come to pass? Cock's arms, sirs, will ye not see how he is undone by the means of me? For if measure had ruled liberty as he began, this Lurden that here lieth had been the nobleman. But he abused so his free liberty, that now he have lost all his felicity, not through largesse of liberal expense, but by the way of fancy insolence. For liberality is most convenient a prince to use with all his whole intent, largely rewarding them that have deserved, and so shall a nobleman nobly be served. But nowadays, as hucksters, they huck and they stick, and pinch at the payment of a pudding prick. A laudable largesse, I tell you, for a lord. To prate for the patching of a potsherd, spare for the spence of a noble that his honour might save, and spend CS for the pleasure of a knave. But so long they reckon with their reasons amiss, that they lose their liberty and all that there is.
Alas, that ever I occupied such abusion.
Yea, for now it hath brought thee to confusion. For where I am occupied and used wilfully, it cannot continue long prosperously, as evidently in reckless youth you may see, how many come to mischief for too much liberty, and some in the world their brain is so idle, that they set their children to run on the bridle, in youth to be wanton, and let them have their will, as then they never thrive in their age, it shall not greatly skill. Some fall to folly themselves for to spill, and some fall preaching at the Tower Hill. Some have so much liberty of one thing and another, that neither they set by father nor by mother. Some have so much liberty, that they fear no sin, till, as ye see many times, they shame all their kin. I am so lusty to look on, so fresh and so free, that nuns will leave their holiness and run after me. Friars with folly, I make them so fain, they cast up their obedience to catch me again. At liberty to wander and walk over all, that lustily they leap sometime their cloister wall.
Here, someone blows a horn from somewhere behind the audience.
Ah, yonder is a whoreson for me doth re-cheat. Adieu, sirs, for I think lest that I come too late.
And here liberty goes out.
Oh, good Lord, how long shall I endure this misery, this careful wretchedness? Of worldly wealth, alas, who can be sure? In fortune's friendship there is no steadfastness. She hath deceived thee with her doubleness. For to be wise, all men may learn of me, in wealth to beware of hard adversity.
And here cometh in Crafty, Conveyance, and Cloaked Colusion with a lusty laughter.
For what? Oh,
And after I am like to brast.
For sport, I'd like to spew and cast.
Why have thou got it in faith to thy share?
I' faith of his coffers the bottoms are bare.
As for his plate of silver and such trash, I warrant you I have given it a lash.
What? Then may he drink out of a stone cruse.
With, yea, sir, by Jesu, that slave was with Jews. He may rinse a pitcher, for his plate is to wed.
I' faith. And he may dream on a dagswin for any feather bed.
Oh, by my troth, we have rifled him meetly well.
Yeah. But thank me thereof every deal.
Thank thee thereof in the devil's date.
Believe thy prating, else I shall lay thee on the pate.
Oh, nay to wrangle, I warrant thee it is but a stone cast.
By the mass, I shall cleave thy head to the waist.
Yea, wilt thou cleanly cleave me in the cleft with thy nose?
I shall thrust in me thy dagger.
Through the leg into the hose?
Nay, Orson, here is my glove. Take it up, an thou dare.
Turd, thou art good to be a man of war.
I shall scalp thee on the scalp. Lo, seest thou that?
What, wilt thou scalp me? Thou dare not look on a gnat.
I shall bless thee, and thou be so bold.
Then thou wilt ding the devil, and thou be not bold.
But what is thou, Orson? I read thee to be wise.
Oh, now I read the head. Beware, I have warned thee twice.
Why, weenest thou that I forbear for thine own sake?
Oh, God, peace, or I shall ring thee. Be in a break.
Hold thy hand, door, off the dagger, and stint of the din, or I shall falchion thy flesh and scrape thee on the skin.
Oh, yea, wilt thou, hangman, I say, thou cavell.
Thou, proud ravener, rain-beaten javel.
Oh, what thou, Colin, coward, known and tried.
Yea, thou, false-heart dastard, thou dare not abide.
Oh, and if there were none to displease but thou and I, thou shouldst not escape Orson, but that thou should die.
Yea, I shall ring thee, Orson, on the wrist.
Oh, marry, I defy thy best and thy worst.
And enter another pair of C's. Enter Counterfeit, Countenance. Good luck, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, the audience at home, everybody's trying to read a script where everybody's name is two C's. So there are three actors trying to figure out who the hell they are supposed to be reading next. It is my fault for not putting numbers in the script.
Oh, dear.
Please battle on, regardless.
Oh dear, here we go. What? A very vengeance need all these words? Go together by the heads and give me your words. Swords, I mean.
So is he the worst brawler that ever was born?
Oh, in faith, so to suffer thee, it is but a scorn.
Now let us all be one, and let us live in rest, for we be sirs but a few of the best.
By the mass, man, thou shalt find me reasonable.
In faith, and I will be to reason agreeable.
Then I to trust to God and the Holy Rood, here shall be no great shedding of blood.
By laking, sir, not by my will.
By the faith that I owe to God, and I will sit still.
Well said, but in faith, what was your quarrel?
Well, marry, sir, this gentleman called me a javel.
Nay, by St. Mary, it was ye called me knave.
Marry, so ungodly language you me gave.
Oh, shall we have more of these matters yet? Methink ye are not greatly encumbered with wit.
God's foot, I warrant you, I am a gentleman born, and thus to be faced, I think it great scorn.
I cannot well tell of your dispositions, and ye be a gentleman, ye have knavish conditions.
By God, I tell you, I will not be outfaced.
Oh, by the mass, I warrant thee, I will not be braced.
Oh, tush, tush, it is a great default. The one of you is too proud, the other is too haught. Tell me briefly whereupon ye began.
Marry, sir, he said that he was the prettier man than I was in opening of locks. I tell you, I disdain much of his mocks.
Oh, thou saw never yet, but I did my part, the lock of a casket to make the start.
Nay, I know well enough ye are both well handed to grope a conveyance, though it be well handled.
I'm the better yet in a budget.
And I the better in a mail.
Oh, tush, these matters that ye move are but sops in ale. Your trimming and tramming by me must be tanged, for Had I not been, ye both had been hanged, when we with Magnificence goods made chevisance.
And therefore our Lord send you a very vengeance.
What beggar art thou that dost doff ban and weary?
Ye be the thieves, I say, away my goods did carry.
Cock's bones, thou beggar, what is thy name?
Magnificent I was, whom ye have brought to shame.
Yea, but trow you, sirs, that this is he?
Go we near and let us see.
Cock's bones, it is the same.
Alas, alas, sirs, ye are to blame. I was your master, though ye think it scorn, and now on me you gurn and spurn.
Lie still now with ill hail.
Yea, for thy language cannot thee avail.
Abide, sir, abide. I shall make him to piss.
Now give me somewhat, for God's sake, I crave.
Oh, in faith, I give thee 4/4 of a knave.
In faith, and I bequeath him the toothache.
And I bequeath him the bone ache.
I bequeath him the gout and the gin.
I bequeath him sorrow for his sin.
And I give him Christ's curse, with never a penny in his purse.
Oh, and I give him the cough, the myrrh, and the pose.
Yea, for requiem aeternam groweth forth of his nose. But now let us make merry and good cheer.
And to the tavern let us draw near.
And from thence to the half street to get us there some fresh meat.
Why, is there any stir of raw mutton?
Yea, in faith, or else thou art too great a glutton.
But they say it is a queasy meat, it will strike a man mischievously in a heat.
If a man, some ribs of the mutton be so rank that they will fire one ungraciously with a flank.
Yea, and when you come out of the shop, ye shall be clapped with a collar that will make you to halt and to hop.
Oh, some be rested there that they think on it 40 days, for there be halls there at all assays.
For the passion of God, let us go hither.
And they go hurriedly out of the place.
Alas, mine own servants to show me such reproach, thus to rebuke me and have me in despite. So shamefully to me their master to approach, that sometime was a noble prince of might. Alas, to live longer I have no delight. For to live in misery it is harder than death. I am weary of this world, for unkindness me slayeth.
And we'll just pause there. So yes, we've had it's the thing when the baddies, as it were, come in, really happy of their time and all they've done. What do? They immediately fall to infighting. I mean, it's just what they do. And of course, all the time.
Honor amongst thieves.
Yeah, but all the time, Magnificence is still on stage. He hasn't exited and come back on again. He's just lying huddled in a corner.
Yeah.
In the place, presumably, that he's been left there. So, in that sense, not only have you got the, comedy back and forth going on between the various Cs. Well done, everyone, by the way. That the scene is technically 15 minutes shorter, but it's just we can't figure out who we are any faster.
That would be a great scene to do live.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It was
That
wonderful.
would be a wonderful scene to put together.
Too much fun.
I mean, just the back and forth between the two of them, and then when the three of them get involved, and then at the end, the poor sod lying on the ground, all the worries. But that's I'd love to see that scene. I really would.
yeah.
Same.
Because it's like they're fighting, and he comes on. What are you fighting about? Well, he called me things. No, he called me things first.
It's like childish playground behaviour. It's great.
It's kind of mocking sort of macho aggression, isn't it? Anyone remember Cannon and Ball?
Yeah.
Ball used to have this thing, didn't he? Well, let me at him, I'll kill him. And it was all a gigantic sort of piss take of a certain kind of macho man, going, you know, I am going to kill you, but just not yet, you know, but I am.
Mm.
And it sort of felt like that, you know, but they were both doing it. They were both kind of trying to show the other that they were these kind of hard cases, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Nine
there's
bags
a
at 10
definite
paces.
case of one-upmanship going on there, both
Yeah.
sides, or all three sides.
Never.
Yeah, and Magnificence is kind of going,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Anytime soon.
and then it turned really weird because then they kind of cursed him.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sort of shifted really quickly, didn't it? And it's kind of like, I give you this disease and I give you that disease.
Yeah. It's the moment he speaks, basically, they just switch into another vein, don't they?
Yeah, it's like they suddenly realise why they are together, so to speak. You know, the whole thing with 3 heads are better than just the one. Three Musketeers, but on a different level.
And it's the line, you know, go we near and let us see, and it's sort of, you know,
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
oh my God, it is him. Oh, he's horrible.
It's also a callback to adversity, isn't it? This sort of stuff that adversity was saying.
Mm.
You know, all those sort of very specific sort of physical things.
Mm.
But also,
gout and toothache. Quite a few of those came up, didn't they? But they sort of sound like they're channeling.
there was a wonderful almost echo, well, for me anyway, of Poverty's the speech where he said, "For if you know you've had this, but you've got this," but without sort of giving of the various things from the 3 C's. So I can't think of a better way of putting it.
Technically, it's 6, but you know.
But that kind of mimicry of the sort of we give you this, we give you this, we give you this. Yeah, wonderful.
And it's also that having cursed him, and you know, you can sort of imagine maybe Magnificence is, you know, screaming or something. You know, we don't have any dialogue for him from a certain point in that scene. And then they all sort of turn to each other and go, right, it's like the pigs in A Muppet Christmas Carol. Who they constantly come in and they go, what should we do now? Well, let's have, I think it's time for breakfast. Yes. And they go off and they come back later and, what should we do? Let's dinner. And it's like that. They just sort of go, why? What should we do now? You know, having cursed this poor person, they just taunt him with all the things they can go away and do. And you know, let's go get some food and hire a sex worker, which is you know what seems to be the default position for vice characters.
Exactly.
It's all appetite, isn't it? So yeah. Any additional thoughts before we go into our final chunkette? So Magnificence is down. Is he out? Well, the clue is possibly with the entrance of the next character. Enter Despair.
Despair is my name, that adversity doth follow. In times of distress I am ready at hand. I make heavy hearts with even full hollow. Of fervent charity I quench out the brand. Faith and good hope I make aside to stand. In God's mercy I tell them, but folly, 'tis folly to trust. All grace and pity I lay in the dust. What, liest thou there lingering, lewdly and loathsome? It is too late now thy sins to repent. Thou hast been so wayward, so wrangling, and so wrathsome, and so far thou art behind of thy rent, and so ungraciously thy days thou hast spent, that thou art not worthy to look God in the face.
Nay, man, I look never to have part of his grace. For I have so ungraciously my life misused. Though I ask mercy, I must needs be refused.
No, for thy sins be so exceeding far, so innumerable and so full of despite, that against thy Maker thou hast made such war, that thou canst not have never mercy in his sight.
Alas, my wickedness, that may I wite, but now I see well there is no better rede by sight and sorrow, and I wish myself dead.
Yet rid thyself rather than this life-footed lead. The world waxeth weary of thee, thou livest too long.
Enter Mischief.
And I, Mischief, am come at need, out of thy life thee for to lead. Look that it be not long ere that thyself thou go hanged. With this halter, good and strong, or else with this knife, cut out a tongue of thy throat bowl, and rid thee out of pain. Thou art not the first himself hath slain. Lo, here is thy knife, and a halter. Ere we go further, spare not thyself, boldly thee murder.
Yea, have I done it once without delay.
Shall I myself hang with an halter? Nay, nay, rather will I choose to rid me of this life, in sticking myself with this fair knife.
And here Magnificence would slay himself with a knife.
Alarum, alarum, too long we abide.
Out, harrow, hell burneth, where shall I me hide?
For enter Good Hope, driving away despair and mischief. Quickly, Good Hope snatches away the knife and says,
Alas, dear son, so cumbered is thy mind, thyself that thou wouldst slay against nature and kind.
Ah, blessed may ye be, sir. What shall I you call?
Good Hope, sir, my name is, remedy principle against all sorts of your ghostly foe, who knoweth me himself may never slow.
Alas, sir, I am lapped in adversity that despair well nigh has mischieved me. For had ye not the sooner been my refuge of damnation, I had been drawn in the luge.
Undoubted ye have but lost yourself eternally. There is no man may sin more mortally than of one hope through the unhappy ways, by mischief to abbreviate and shorten his days. But my good son, learn from despair to flee, wind you from one hope and acquaint you with me. Great misadventure thy maker to displease, thyself mischieving to thine endless disease. There was never so hard a storm of misery, but through good hope there may come remedy.
Your words be more sweeter than any precious nard. They mollify so easily my heart that was so hard. There is no balm. Sorry, I've just lost it. Sorry. There is no balm, ye gun of Araby, more delicate than your language to me.
Sir, your physician is the grace of God, that you have punished with his sharp rod. Good hope your apothecary assigned am I, that God's grace have vexed you sharply and pained you with a purgation of odious poverty, mixed with bitter aloes of hard adversity. Now must I make you an electuary soft, I to minister it to you to receive it oft. With rhubarb of repentance in you for to rest, with drams of devotion your diet must be dressed, with gums ghostly of glad heart and mind, to thank God of his sond and comfort ye shall find. Put from you presumption and admit humility, and heartily thank God of your adversity, and love that Lord for that for your love was dead, wounded from the foot to the crown of the head. For who loveth God can ail nothing but good. He may help you, he may mend your mood. Prosperities in him is given salaciously to man, adversity by him therewith now and then. Health of his body his business to achieve, disease and sickness his conscience to describe. Affliction and trouble to prove his patience, contradiction to prove his sapience. Grace of assistance his measure to declare, sometime to fall, another time to beware. And now ye have had, sir, a wondrous fall, to learn you hereafter for to beware withal. How say you, sir? Can these words grope?
Yea, sir, now am I armed with good hope, and sore I repent me of my wilfulness. I ask of mercy of my negligence under good hope, enduring ever still, me humbly committing unto God's will.
Then shall you be soon delivered from distress, for now I see coming to you what redress.
And indeed, enter Redress.
Christ be among you and the Holy Ghost.
He be your conduct, the Lord of mights most.
Sir, is your patient anything amended?
Yes, he is, sir. Yea, sir, he is sorry for that he hath offended.
How feel you yourself, my friend? How is your mind?
A wretched man, sir, to my maker unkind.
Yea, but have ye repented with heart contrite?
Sir, the repentance I have no man can write.
And have ye banished from you all despair?
Yea, wholly to good hope I have made my repair.
Questionless he doth me assure, in good hope always for to endure.
Then stand up, sir, in God's name, and I trust to ratify and amend your fame. Good hope. I pray you with hearty affection to send over to me sad circumspection.
Sir, your request shall not be delayed.
And he goes out.
Now surely magnificence, I am right well apaid of that. I see you now in this state of grace. Now shall ye be renewed with solace. Take now upon you this habiliment, and to that I give good advertisement.
And indeed, Magnificent takes such a garment.
To your request I shall be conformable.
First I say, with mind firm and stable, determined to amend all your wanton excess, and be ruled by me, which am called Redress. Redress my name is, that little am I used as the world requireth, and rather I am refused. Redress should be at the reckoning of every account, and specially to redress that were out of joint. Full many things there be that lacketh redress, the which were too long now to express, but redress is reedless, and may do no correction. Now welcome, forsooth, sad circumspection.
And indeed, here cometh in sad circumspection.
Sir,
So-
after your
sorry,
message,
Hugh.
Sad circumspection should be Stephen, yes.
Sir, after your message, I hide me hither straight, for to understand your pleasure, and also your mind.
Sir, to account you the continue of my conceit is from adversity magnificence to unbind.
How fortuned you, Magnificence, so far to fall behind.
Sir, the long absence of you, sad circumspection, caused me of adversity to fall in subjection.
All that he saith of truth doth proceed. For where sad circumspection is long out of the way, of adversity it is to stand in dread.
Without fail, sir, that is no nay. Circumspection in hateth all running astray, but, sir, by me to rule first ye began.
My wilfulness, sir, excuse I ne can.
Then, of folly in times past you repent.
Softly to repent me I have great cause. Howbeit from you I received a letter which contained in it a special clause that I should use largesse.
Nay, sir, there a pause.
Yet let us see this matter thoroughly engrossed.
Sir, this letter ye sent to me at Pontoise was enclosed.
Who brought you that letter? What he hight?
Largesse, sir, by his credence was his name.
This letter you speak of, never did I write.
To give so hasty credence, ye were much to blame.
Truth it is, sir, for after he wrought me much shame, and caused me also to use too much liberty, and made also measure to be put from me.
When wealth with you might in no wise abide.
Ha! Fancy and folly met with you, I trow.
It would be found so, if it were well tried.
Surely my wealth with them was overthrown.
Remember you, therefore, how late you were low.
Yea, and beware of unhappy abusion.
And keep you from counterfeiting of cloaked Colusion.
Sir, in good hope I am to amend.
Use not then your countenance for to counterfeit.
And from crafters and hafters are you forfend.
Enter here Perseverance.
Well, sir, after your counsel my mind I will set.
What, brother Perseverance, surely well met.
Ye come hither as well as can be thought.
I heard say that adversity with Magnificence had fought.
Yea, sir, with adversity I have been vexed. But good hope and redress have mended mine estate, and sad circumspection to me they have annexed.
What this man hath said, perceive ye his sentence?
Yea, sir, from him my courage shall never flit.
According to truth, they be well devised.
Sirs, I am agreed to abide your ordinance. Faithful assurance with good peradventures.
You be so minded, we be right glad.
And ye shall have more worship than ever ye had.
Well, I perceive in you there is much sadness, gravity of counsel, providence, and wit. Your comfortable advice and wit exceedeth all gladness. But friendly I will refrain you further ere we flit. Whereto were most meekly my courage to knit. Your minds, I beseech you, herein to express, commencing this process at master redress.
Sith unto me foremost this process is erected. Herein I will force me to show you my mind. First, from your magnificence, sin must be abjected. In all works more grace shall ye find. Be gentle then of courage, and learn to be kind. For of nobleness the chief point is to be liberal, so that your largesse be not too prodigal.
Liberty to a lord belongeth of right, but wilful waywardness must walk out of the way. Measure of your lusts must have the oversight, and not all the niggard nor the chinchard to play. Let never niggard ship your nobleness affray. In your rewards, use such moderation that nothing be given without consideration.
To the increase of your honour, then arm you with right, and famously address you with magnanimity, and ever let the dread of God be in your sight, and know yourself mortal for all your dignity. Set not all your affiance in fortune full of guile. Remember this life lasteth but a while.
Redress, in my remembrance your lessons shall rest, and sad circumspection I mark with my mind. But Perseverance, methinketh your problem was best. I shall it never forget, nor leave it behind. But wholly to Perseverance myself I will bind, of that I have misdone to make a redress, and with sad circumspection correct my wantonness.
Unto this process briefly compiled, comprehending the world casual and transitory, who list to consider shall never be beguiled, if it be registered well in memory. A plain example of worldly vainglory, how in this world there is no sickness, but fallible flattery, and mixed with bitterness. Now well, now woe, now high, now low degree, now rich, now poor, now whole, now in disease. Now pleasure at large, now in captivity, now lief, now loath, now please, now displease, now ebb, now flow, now increase, now decrease. So in this world there is no sickness, but fallible flattery, and mixed with bitterness.
Mirror, encircled is this interlude, this life inconstant for to behold and see, suddenly advanced, and suddenly subdued, suddenly riches, and suddenly poverty, suddenly comfort, and suddenly adversity. Suddenly thus fortune can both smile and frown, suddenly set up, suddenly cast down, suddenly promoted and suddenly put back, suddenly cherished and suddenly cast aside, suddenly commended and suddenly find a lack, suddenly granted and suddenly denied, suddenly hid and suddenly espied. Suddenly thus fortune can both smile and frown, suddenly set up, and suddenly cast down.
His treatise devised to make you disport, showeth nowadays how the world cumbered is, to the pith of the matter who list to resort. Today it is well, tomorrow it is all amiss. Today in delight, tomorrow bare of bliss. Today a lord, tomorrow to lie in the dust. Thus in the world there is no earthly trust. Today fair weather, tomorrow a stormy rage. Today hot, tomorrow outrageous cold. Today a yeoman, tomorrow made a page. Today in surety, tomorrow bought and sold. Today master fast, tomorrow he hath no hold. Today a man, tomorrow he lieth in the dust. Thus in the world there is no earthly trust.
This matter we have moved you mirthful to make, pressly purposed under pretence of play, showeth wisdom to them that wisdom can take, how suddenly worldly wealth doth decay, how wisdom through wantonness vanisheth away, how none estate living of himself can be sure, for the wealth of this world cannot endure. Of the terrestre rhetoric we fall in the flood, beaten with storms of many a froward blast, and sworded with the waves savage and wood, without our ship be sure it is likely to brast. Yet of magnificence oft made is the mast, thus none estate living of him can be sure, for the wealth of this world cannot endure.
Now seemeth us sitting that ye then resort home to your palace with joy and royalty.
Where everything is ordained after your noble port.
There is there to endure with all felicity.
I am content, my friends, that it be so.
And ye that have heard this disport and game, Jesus preserve you from endless woe and shame.
Amen. And thus ends the play. I mean, yes, we get to the end where the moral sort of comes in thick and not so fast, but really get a really good overall sense of the shape of this play now. There's so much good. I mean, the bit going right back to the beginning of where we started reading this sequence, despair and mischief, and the suicide invitation pact thing. God, that's dark.
It is dark.
Oh, that really lands as, a moment. They've driven this character, and he's been on stage throughout, being driven various stages, and you get to this point, and yeah, that's really nicely done, I have to say. And, nicely done in the sense that, immediately the forces of good come in and cast them away. So, it's yeah. Thoughts?
I think it's a really nice journey, actually, within the whole piece. And even with that really dark moment, it actually, I think anyway, brings the whole thing to a head. And it's like I was saying about the whole human condition earlier and the mindset. I think even from start to finish, it's just got this very natural, very insightful journey into that when somebody's pushed too far. And the more I think about it, the more it's very, as I was listening to that little bit just then, it's very relevant to the times that we are in right now, this uncertain period, because there's been a lot of suicides within lockdown, a lot of people have been pushed to their limits, especially over the last 3 or 4 months or so. And I think just listening to it and playing these roles actually brings a lot of what is going on human condition wise home. It's just, yeah, it may have been written back then, but it's so relevant to now. It's given a lot of food for thought, put it that way.
That sad circumspection speech, the suddenly, which you sort of look on the page and going, oh, he's saying suddenly a lot. But, you know, it's actually, that worked for me really well. Suddenly thus fortune can smile and frown. Suddenly set up, suddenly cast down. It's very simple, but you know, that suddenly I thought worked really well. You know, it's all very everyman in that's the overall structure, you know, that morality structure. And we sort of got a bit lost in the early comic business, but you know, overall the shape is there, and the journey works. I might adjust the line with rhubarb of repentance in use.
It's a wonderful line, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Good
I
hope offered
looked
in
at it long and
rhubarb of
hard.
repentance.
I looked at it long and hard, trying to go, right, is it more rubric or rebarb? Or no,
As soon as we finished, I went back and found that. I've got that page up, the rhubarb of repentance.
because it is talking about
It's a
dice
little
and
bit like
things
the
you're
last,
taking in.
a little bit like the last piece of I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. You know, where they sign off. The rhubarb of fate. Overlooked.
The rhubarb of repentance to the locked door of the bathroom.
I
Locked door
can
of the
tell you what the
bathroom of
note says
destiny.
if you want. Rhubarb is a purgative, it says here.
And that's the point. It's just, it does land as a slightly too comic at that moment.
Within all that, yeah.
Some kind of simile game or something, isn't it? It's sort of improv game.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was coming from one of the silly characters when I read it. I was like, what? Who? But it's beautiful speech, that one. And I think Good Hope had some great speeches in his little bit of time on stage.
Yeah.
One of the, just to sort of carry Sasha's point a bit further, the doubling really, I think, might theatrically kick in, because it's a very long time since we've seen any character that's kind of on Magnificence's side. And there's this kind of, you know, it's a bit like the Matrix, you know, one sort of baddie leads the stage, and it's the same performer, but they're a kind of, you know, they're Mischief or they're Despair or somebody else. There's this, you know, it's kind of sense of Magnificence just sort of being continually sort of knocked back down again by this endless series of adversaries. And, you know, the kind of, at this point, you know, is that cavalry going to arrive? But the doubling seems to work really well with the idea of the doubling, you know, because it's kind of like everybody's against him and they just sort of come in as somebody else. But, you know, that sense the entire world is against this one figure, I think.
Other thoughts? Anyone want to jump in? I think we're into that point where we can talk about the play more generally rather than the bit we've just done. I mean, it's a play that seems that it has potential levels that can be played to it. You know, we haven't really talked about any background. I know Stephen's been looking at some of the backgrounds. We mentioned the other day where Skelton was in his personal life, you know, within the court and things. And you know, he starts off, once upon a time, he was tutor to the king when he didn't think he was going to be king. And the moment that Arthur dies, Skelton is no longer tutor and spends basically the rest of his life trying to get back into court. So on a personal level, the play is written as part of that sort of Skelton's attempt to curry favour in the court, or, you know, produce something that, you know, the king or the court might be interested in. So there's that level that's quite interesting. We've talked very briefly about the sort of political thing about minions overtaking the head of the household or the King Henry himself, that political level. So if the play is written around 19 rather than the earlier dates I was giving, then there is a direct connection with various members of the court who were effectively booted out, and that this play feeds into this narrative of the king having learnt and from that experience on some level. Then we got the allegorical stuff, the stuff that is very medieval, looking back to not actually that long ago, Everyman and other morality plays, which we don't have, and as well as the ones we do. And then of course there's just the straightforward minute by minute entertainment level of here are some bastards buggering about on stage for quite a long time, where the sort of idiomatic stuff, where at the time this would have been hilarious, not just because of what they were saying, but how they were saying, and is slightly harder for us to take on. So there's lots and lots and lots of things potentially going on here that's really interesting. Final discussion then really about the play itself, about what we might do with it now that we've done the whole thing. I'm much more positive about it as a play, about there is something here with a lot of cutting that is presentable within the form of the text, but you can disagree with me if you like. Greg,
I was going to say, me who's struggled through this, I really enjoyed the last third. But yeah, you're right. It needs a darn lot of cutting to get it something that I think an audience would even remotely be able to survive.
It's not just that; it's the actors. I mean, this is potentially over 2 hours long, and you've got 6 actors doing it. That's a big ask.
Yeah.
Unless you go, unless the play's going to be in your repertoire for a long time, you've got to do so much rehearsal, so much work to get this thing.
We were saying this earlier today, weren't we, Ian?
Yeah.
It's and then there's all the business as well that would have to come in. It'd be a lot of work, an enormous amount of work. It'd be a lot of work.
I think you'd spend about a fortnight just trying to understand what you were saying.
Before we even got on the rehearsal floor.
Before you got onto rehearsal, yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks to remember who you are.
Yeah, I just give you numbers. It'll be fine.
We almost had that again earlier tonight as well.
Yeah.
Apologies, Greg.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Not even Greg. Sorry, it was Stephen.
That's how confused you are.
Oh, Rob. This is. Yeah, that's how confused it got me. It was like, if it wasn't a CC, it was an SC.
Yeah, which I think is just C's. I think that's what it's supposed to be said. I think it should be a capitalised C.
I think it was your line, Sascha. It said CS.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I think it's
supposed to be C's. S.
It's got a weird. Yeah, because it's got a weird sort of full stop in the middle.
Yeah, it should be. I think it should be these C's. I think almost it might be literally talking about all these C's that we've
all these C's that have, yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I haven't quite passed that one. I could find no helpful footnote telling me more.
These C's.
But no, especially it's a game of two halves. The first half you could I'm sure there's lots to dig out of it, but I could happily trim most of that out and just go for the second half with, reasonable style cuts and see what happens there. We seem to have lost Stephen.
I think we have.
Yeah.
It's all those C's.
I was talking about cuts. He was deeply offended.
Obviously, bye.
I don't think he was actually. Internet does seem to be a little scratchy tonight, so it might be that.
Yeah, when I lost it halfway through that last speech, I had a big black sign come up straight over my script saying, "Your internet is going down." I couldn't see what I was reading.
Yeah,
you
went into slow motion at that time.
That was the line.
Oh, it was. Oh, right. Your internet is going down or something.
The play reading is too long. Hello, Stephen again.
He's back.
Yes. So
cut. Yeah.
So, Sascha, any final thoughts from you about the play overall? Admittedly, you missed the middle chunk, but
Yeah,
I don't
but
think you missed too much narratively.
no, I was having a look at the middle bit actually before I came on, and yeah, and I think a general as a play, it would certainly work live, and I think a lot could be gotten out of these characters, especially as if you correctly say it's a game of two halves. So why not go for it properly if we do this for real? And I hope we do this for real, because it's just so beautifully written. And it's funny. It's got the right balance of funny, sad, insight. You know, it's got a lot in there that I think all of us can relate to in some way, shape, or form. And well, I'll tell you, if you do stage it, I'd love to be involved. It's a really, really good piece.
If you stage it, Robert, I don't want to be involved. I'm just too old. I will not live long enough.
Can I run the bar for it?
I think there is an element here that, you know, the process that we've done with the audio stuff actually fits quite well with this, is that something we can look at and do the textual work over time and share it with the world and in a relatively leisurely fashion, rather than saying we're going to sit down over a couple of weeks and try and sort out the play, but actually we could do it in a much more holistic fashion and, you know, share it with the world, and also find some answers to some of the questions, because there are lots of textual questions where actually I wasn't quite finding answers, and I know there are people who do know more answers than we've got here, so you know, there's a lot of work that could be done in a much more holistic fashion before we ever come to approaching staging it as a live event. Mr. McCabe, any final thoughts?
No, none from me, thank you.
Yep. Stephen, have I come to you for a final thought?
I think I must have been dropped out if you did.
Yeah.
Well, just to pick up on, I can't remember who said it, but the dimension of rehearsal. I was thinking about that, you know, what we know about, or what we consume about some of the rehearsal practice later in this century, which is very much bound up with there being a professional theatre and you play every day and, you know, cue scripts and that kind of thing. And this is it couldn't possibly be done in that sort of practical setup. So it's interesting to me that we're looking at plays that are actually predicated upon a sort of modern rehearsal practices, basically. You know, that's sort of that idea that you have a good go at it for 3 weeks or something like that if you've got any chance of getting it up. And you know, because I sort of spend some time dabbling in theatre history, I just find that really, really interesting that, you know, this is a sort of precursor of, or at least what used to be the professional theatre in this century, you know, and then it was sort of superseded by something else.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point. We have lots of different ideas about different practices. You know, earlier than this, we have different structures later, and actually, yeah, the sort of Tudor interlude, there isn't a vast amount of evidence about much of it. I mean, it's beyond what you can infer from the texts. You know, obviously, if it is part of a major entertainment with, you know, the royal household, then you know, you know the kind of timings that these things are coming. You know, they're going to come with seasonal events and seasonal planning. I was thinking about Beware the Cat, which is a later book, but whose narrative is about some people who are rehearsing entertainments for the royal court in 1550-ish, and they're all actually, all these players or seemingly these particular individuals are sort of sleeping in the same room, and it's all a bit hugger-mugger, and it's like they're preparing for this thing and they're telling ghost stories in the middle of the night. And I'm wondering if there's something there that there's a deliberate unit of people hugger-mugger who are amongst their other daily duties, getting involved in that. I don't know if I'm leaping massively on that one, but it just it fits with the intensity that this kind of play might go with. Mr. McCabe.
Just a bit of information. That CS was bothering me, so I found it. It's 100 shillings.
Ah, of course. We had some number
would have been
issues
an
earlier.
enormous amount of money then, I presume. £5. Yeah?
Yeah. Find it so I can... There we are, 100 shillings. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I write it in so that we don't have this problem next time.
Well, with inflation, it might be less next time we do this.
Did you hear that, Greg? Next time.
Next time, Greg.
Next week, we'll do it all again.
In dance.
It's all right, I'm only doing one night next week. That's fine.
Oh, we're doing one night, no problem.
And guess what we're doing that night?
Okay, does anyone have any additional final thoughts they want to throw in before I close the session? No. Okay, we've had a good stab at a first look at Magnificence. It didn't beat us in the end. We came out of it the other side. Adversity did not beat us down. Poverty and despair have not beaten us. We have come out and we have had redress. So thank you very much to all the readers, and goodbye.
Good.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye.